Morning. Is it on? Yeah, okay, cool. Hi, good morning. I appreciate you guys waking up. It's been a bit of a rough night last night. I'm going to be very brief, just a few points of what I kind of seen here during the week and things like that. So I'm Mickey, I'm the CEO of Semperis, but I think we kind of established it already yesterday. First of all, thank you for being here again. Thank you for being part of the HIP community. It's very exciting to see how this community grows every year. And it was very exciting to see yesterday how many people, as I mentioned, are coming back every year again and again and again. That's, I think, what is making this community so special. I wanted to share with you some of my observations and what I think is the most interesting things that I heard. I don't know if the most, but some of the things that I heard during this week. So the first one, the session that started with Microsoft committed to AD security and support. I think that's a very big announcement because for many years I wasn't really sure what's going to happen with Microsoft and AD. So it was very nice to see that actually they do care. The second bullet that I put here to me was a very interesting thing that I heard on one of the sessions, and that's the fact that we always think about technology that it's been around for a while. We start to think about as a legacy and as something that doesn't really have any value anymore and we necessarily have to get off from. But what I actually heard is a very different view on that, and that the fact that AD has been around for more than 25 years means that this is a mature technology, and there's a lot of things that already exist there that just doesn't exist anywhere else at this point, which I know that many of us actually understand it in a very intuitive way. But it was very interesting just to hear people say it. I think even somebody joked that when they mentioned that they did, I think, like 400 changes or something like that, well, how do you make perfect better? So interesting observation there. Another interesting one point for me was the fact of how diverse is actually the people that are attending HIP. We had people here that have less than 5 DCs in their environment, and we have people that have more than 5,000, which is quite interesting. Yeah. Another point that was made, obviously also seems to me very obvious, but it's interesting to see it when it's part of a survey that was done, but the fact that the environments that we're all protecting are going to remain hybrid for a very long period of time. This next bullet is the fact that identity is more critical than ever. I assume that you're all hearing it from multiple different directions. I mean, Gartner speaks about it, and pretty much any other analyst firm out there now speaks about the fact that since we no longer live in this world behind the firewall with endpoints that we fully protect, and we don't have applications running just inside of our own perimeter, that continues to make identity more and more critical. And I think we will only see that getting a bigger and bigger and bigger challenge in terms of, on one hand, how you defend it, and then on the other hand, how do you leverage it to protect the rest of the environment, which actually also attaches to the last point that I wanted to share with you here. But as you heard me saying yesterday, part of the reason why I love HIP so much is because I actually learn something every time that I come to HIP. And this is something that I was thinking a lot about, but I didn't really have a way to conclude, like, what does it actually means? Up until discussions with somebody today. And what they shared was that their view on this world of agentic AI and how you'll be managing and protecting those is that it actually should be treated as a third bucket. So it's some sort of a third way or a third type of an identity. Because we have human identities, which I think at this point we understand pretty well, at least in the digital space. We have the machine identities, which I think that we also understand pretty well. But now we have something which is not this and not that, because it's not a human, but it's also not a machine. It have some ways where it behaves like a human, but in other ways it actually behaves like a machine. So I think we're getting to this interesting point where we can start and think of those identities as a third thing. And it will require a lot of thinking in terms of what does it mean. Because as an example, one of the thoughts that we also discussed yesterday was the fact that the delegation model that we're used to with applications will not necessarily apply just because of the fact that When I, just to put it into context, when I try to do something with an application, in most cases, the application will use my permissions to do whatever it is that I'm trying to do. Now, if I'm working with the human, I can submit a ticket to something that potentially I have no authority to do, but the human will read the ticket and they will do this thing that they ask for, assuming it makes sense. And I think what we will see with agentic AI is something in between those two. So different type of approach and different ways to think about it. Last thing that I wanted to share with you is actually something that I saw this morning. I took a picture outside just before the session of the what do you want to see at HIP 26? And here's what I got, okay? This is just a picture from what you all put out there. Magic. Don't know who's gonna do that. There was a specific request for karaoke. Okay. Then there was, this one is interesting, Guido. There's even a small heart next to it, so everybody loves Guido. International destination, which is, okay, cool. I don't know what that means. And then, but there was one, there's some other ones that are also kind of funny as well. Branded clothing and things like that, that you want to wear now, not later. Okay, I get it. There was one that I think was interesting that somebody put here that says, a request for a session, how to recruit next generation high schools. And I think that to me makes a lot of sense. I think it's a very interesting topic. And if you guys remember yesterday, I don't know if the gentleman is here in the room, but yesterday we had somebody that shared that that's what they do. And after the session was over yesterday, I had another gentleman that approached me and said that actually he is trying to do the same thing as well. And I think that is something that we should really think about. So I think if we have people that want to talk about it for the HIP session next year on how potentially can we continue and expand the cycle of knowledge around identity security and identity protection, bring it into high schools and things like that, I think it would be a great session that we can have next year as well. So I would encourage you all, if you want to submit a session about it to be presented at the next HIP event. And Guido. I think this one is kind of obvious, but I did share it with some of the people that I had the interactions during the last few days. I really think that the more people you meet here, especially the ones that you have not met before, although somebody shared with me that they met somebody that they have not seen for 10 years and then they finally met at HIP, which is also great. But I think if you can continue and stay in touch with the people that you meet here, expanding your network, creating a network, you never know. Our community eventually is not that big, so it can be very beneficial to all. We have a lot of different educational content that we're putting, and I will encourage you to do two things. The first one, consume it, obviously, because I think there's a lot of very smart ideas and very smart people, way smarter than myself, that are sharing their thoughts in the HIP community, which is always great. And what I also love about it, and it's even in this picture, is the fact that we have the point of view of the CISOs, we have the point of view of the practitioners, and everything in between, which is obviously amazing. Some different things, if you don't know, we have a HIP podcast. I think it's available pretty much on every platform where you're consuming your podcasts. So the same encouragement as before. One, go listen, because there's a lot of interesting ideas that are being shared there. Second one, get in touch with Sean and other people that are involved with the HIP podcast and come be a guest. Share something interesting that you are seeing. Share your observations. We would love to hear from you. Okay, drum roll. Who's going to do this? Am I supposed to? Okay. A wild guess. So looking forward to seeing you all in Nashville next year. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. But remember one of the requests that we just had this morning? So we're trying to respond very quickly to requests that are coming in. Just kidding. But we are going to Frankfurt.